My sister-in-law locked me in a dark closet at my baby shower, knowing I have severe claustrophobia. I woke up in the hospital not knowing if my baby was still alive. But when my mother-in-law discovered the truth, she cut off her IVF treatment funding and kicked her out of the family. I'm 28 years old. I've been married to Benjamin for 3 years, and 6 weeks ago I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl. But I need to tell you what happened before that because I still can't believe my sister-in-law, Natalie, would do something like this. I guess I should start from the beginning, when we announced we were pregnant, because that's where the signs started showing up, even though I didn't fully understand them at the time. We'd been trying to get pregnant for like a year, nothing too intense, we just stopped being careful and said whatever happens, happens. When the test finally came out positive, it was like a dream. Benjamin and I cried with happiness and we decided to throw a small party to announce it to our families. We organized everything at my in-laws' house, Patricia and Charles, who are incredible people. Honestly, they've always treated me like another daughter. We invited both families, my parents, my siblings, Benjamin's parents, and, obviously, Natalie and her husband, Matthew. The thing is that Natalie had been trying to get pregnant for like 5 years. They'd tried IVF several times without success, and I knew it was a sensitive topic for her. But I thought she'd be happy for us anyway because we were family. You know what I mean? The party started out well. Everyone was excited. My parents screamed with joy when we announced it. Patricia cried and hugged us both. It was a beautiful moment. But when I looked over to where Natalie was, she had this expression on her face that I can't describe, like somewhere between anger and sadness, and she stayed quiet the rest of the afternoon. Matthew tried to cheer her up. He'd talk to her quietly, but she just shook her head and looked away. I tried to approach her at one point. I said, "Natalie, are you okay?" And she smiled at me, but it was a fake smile, one of those that doesn't reach your eyes, and she told me, yes, that she was just tired from work. At that moment, I let it go because I thought maybe she needed to process her emotions, that it must be hard to see someone else achieve what you've been trying for years without success. And the next few months were normal, more or less. Natalie kept her distance. She didn't call me like before. She hardly came to family gatherings, and when she did come, she'd leave early with some excuse. Patricia mentioned to me a couple of times that Natalie wasn't going through a good time, that the fertility treatments had her very stressed, and that also she and Matthew had opened a business together that wasn't going very well. I understood. I really did. I tried to be patient and give her space, but I was also excited about my pregnancy and wanted to share it with my family, I wasn't going to hide my happiness just because she was going through something difficult, although I know that sounds selfish. When I got to 7 months pregnant, Benjamin and I had bought a new house. It was perfect. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, everything we needed to start our family. We decided to have the baby shower there. We wanted to break it in with something special, and plus we had the space to invite everyone. We sent out the invitations like a month ahead, decorated everything with a woodland animals theme because that's what we'd chosen for the baby's room, and honestly, everything turned out beautiful. We invited like 40 people, friends, family, coworkers. It was a big thing. The day of the baby shower came and everything was perfect. There was food, games, gifts everywhere, the house full of happy people celebrating with us. Patricia and Charles arrived early to help with the last things, my parents too. And Natalie arrived like an hour after the start with Matthew. She looked good. She wore a nice dress, had done her hair, but she had that same expression from the announcement party, like a forced smile. Matthew stayed, glued to her the whole time, like he was afraid to leave her alone. And now I understand why. The party was going great. We were playing guess the size of my belly with ribbons, when Natalie came up to me and asked if she could speak with me privately. She said, "Isabella, can we talk for a moment alone? I need to tell you something." And I said yes, of course, because I thought she was finally going to apologize for being so distant, or that maybe she wanted to vent to me about her fertility problems. I said, "Let's go to my room or the study," but she said no. "Let's go to the supply closet that's closer. It'll just be a minute." And I thought it was weird, but I didn't give it much importance. We walked toward the hallway where that supply closet is. It's a tiny room where we keep the vacuum, cleaning products, those things. She opened the closet door and said, "It's quieter here. Come in for a second." And I went in without thinking twice because she was my sister-in-law. She was family. I trusted her completely. What happened next I still have trouble believing. As soon as I entered the closet and turned around to look at her, she pushed me hard inside, slammed the door shut, and I heard the key turn in the lock. I was left in complete darkness. Like I couldn't see absolutely anything, not even my hand in front of my face. I have to explain something important here. I've had severe claustrophobia since I was a kid, like 8 years old, when I got trapped in an elevator for 3 hours. Since then, I can't be in closed, dark spaces without going into total panic. My entire family knows this. Benjamin knows it. Natalie knew it perfectly because I'd told her years ago. So when that door closed and I realized I was locked in a small, completely dark space, I started hyperventilating immediately. I pounded on the door with all my strength. I screamed, "Isabella, please, open up. This isn't funny. I'm pregnant. I have claustrophobia. Open up now." But I didn't hear anything from the other side. Just silence, or maybe the noise from the party was drowning out my screams. I don't know. I kept pounding and screaming. I felt like the space was getting smaller every second, that the walls were closing in on me. My heart was beating so fast I thought it was going to explode. And the baby was moving like crazy inside my belly, probably feeling my panic. I started crying, begging. I repeated, "Please, please, please," but no one came. I don't know how much time passed. Maybe it was 10 minutes, maybe 15, but it felt like hours. And at some point I just couldn't anymore. I started running out of air. I saw bright lights even though I was in total darkness, and the last thing I remember is feeling myself falling. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed with Benjamin holding my hand and crying. I woke up confused, disoriented, with monitors connected everywhere and an oxygen mask on my face. Benjamin saw me open my eyes and said, thank God," and started kissing my forehead over and over. I tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. I asked him what happened, where I was, and he explained that they'd found me passed out in the supply closet. Apparently, I'd been missing for like 20 minutes when he realized I wasn't anywhere. He asked everyone if they'd seen me, and nobody knew. He started searching for me all over the house until he heard a loud thud coming from the hallway. He opened the closet and found me lying on the floor, unconscious. He carried me to the car and brought me straight to the hospital, called the ambulance on the way, and when we arrived, they rushed me in as an emergency because I was pregnant and they'd lost the baby's pulse for a moment. The doctors did 1,000 tests on me, monitored the baby for hours, and thank God they told us we were both okay, that it had been a fainting spell from extreme panic and lack of oxygen, but that it hadn't caused permanent damage. They told me I was very lucky, that if I'd been locked in 5 or 10 more minutes, things could have been very different. Benjamin stayed with me all night at the hospital. He didn't let go of my hand for a second. And I told him everything. I said that Natalie had locked me in there on purpose, that she knew perfectly well that I had severe claustrophobia, and that she did it anyway. He couldn't believe it. He kept saying, "Are you sure? Are you completely sure it was her?" And I swore to him yes, that she had taken me there, had pushed me inside, and had locked the door with a key. Benjamin was furious, like I'd never seen him that angry. He was pacing back and forth in the room saying he was going to kill Natalie. How dare she? That he was going to report her to the police. The next morning, when they discharged me and we went back home, the whole family was there waiting for us. Patricia, Charles, my parents, my siblings, and obviously Natalie and Matthew. Patricia ran to me as soon as she saw me and hugged me crying, asking if I was okay, if the baby was okay, saying it had been the biggest scare of her life. Everyone was worried, asking questions, except Natalie, who was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed, not saying anything. Benjamin asked everyone to sit down because we needed to talk about something serious. I was shaking. I didn't know how I was going to say it, but I had to. I told them everything, from when Natalie asked to speak with me privately until I woke up in the hospital. I said, "Natalie locked me in that closet, knowing I have claustrophobia, knowing I'm pregnant, and left me there until I passed out. I could have lost my baby because of what she did." The silence that followed was horrible. Nobody knew what to say. Everyone was staring at me with their mouths open. And then Natalie spoke. She said, No, that's not what happened. It was just a prank. I didn't know you were going to get that bad. I thought you'd be able to get out or that someone would hear you quickly." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I yelled at her, "A prank? Locking me in a closet knowing I have severe claustrophobia? Is a prank? Putting my unborn baby's life at risk is a prank to you?" Patricia stood up and asked Natalie if it was true, if she'd really done that. And Natalie started crying and saying it wasn't her intention to hurt me, that she was just angry, that it wasn't fair that I could have a baby so easily while she'd been trying for years without success. She said, "I've spent thousands of dollars on treatments. I've injected myself with hormones every day. I've gone through painful procedures over and over, and nothing works. And you get pregnant just like that without really even trying. And that infuriates me. Okay? It infuriates me so much." Patricia looked at her with an expression I'd never seen on her, like total disappointment mixed with horror, and said, "So you admit you did it on purpose, that it wasn't an accident or a prank?" And Natalie went quiet. She just cried. Charles, who is generally a very quiet person who hardly speaks, said this, "Is unforgivable, Natalie. You endangered your sister-in-law and your unborn niece out of jealousy. That has no justification." Rachel and Kelly, two of my friends who were at the baby shower, said they'd heard Natalie saying something to me before taking me to the hallway, that it sounded weird, but they didn't give it importance at the moment. Matthew was sitting with his head in his hands. He looked devastated. Probably couldn't believe what his wife had done. I told everyone there, "I need you to understand that this wasn't a mistake or a moment of temporary insanity. Natalie planned this. She took me to that specific closet because she knew it was small and dark. She knew I have claustrophobia, and she did it anyway. And now she comes to say it was a prank when I almost died and almost lost my baby. I can't have her in my life. I can't be around someone capable of doing something like this." Patricia turned to Natalie and said, "We've supported you in everything. We've paid for your fertility treatments that cost a fortune. We've given you money for your business when it was in trouble. We've defended you when people criticized your decisions, but this is too much. This crosses a line that can't be uncrossed." And Natalie started begging. She said, "Mom, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was going to be this serious. Please don't abandon me." I told everyone there, especially Patricia and Charles, that they needed to choose. I said, "I know she's your daughter and that it's an impossible situation, but I can't be in the same family as her after this. I can't trust that she won't hurt my daughter when she's born. If she's capable of doing this now, either she's out of your lives, or we're out." And I meant it. I wasn't going to risk my family to keep the peace. Patricia didn't hesitate for a second. She told Natalie, "What you did is unforgivable, and I can't support you in this. In fact, I'm going to withdraw all the funding we were giving you for the IVF treatments. I'm not going to keep paying to bring a baby into the world when you just endangered the life of one that's already on the way." And Natalie completely broke down. She threw herself on the floor on her knees and started begging. She said, "Please, please, I need that money. It's my last chance to be a mother. Please don't do this to me." But Patricia was firm. She said, "You've made your choices and now you have to live with the consequences. I don't want to see you again until Isabella decides she's ready to forgive you, if she ever is." Charles completely supported his wife. He told Natalie to get her things and leave. Matthew got up without saying anything, helped Natalie stand up, and took her out of there. The last image I have from that day is Natalie turning at the door with her face full of tears and snot, looking devastated. I thought that's where it all ended. But no. 8 days later, Natalie posted a long post on Facebook attacking me. She said, "I was a terrible person, who had stolen the family's attention, that I played the victim so everyone would feel sorry for me, that I had manipulated Patricia and Charles to cut her out of their lives, and that the closet incident was completely blown out of proportion, and that I was exaggerating." She put a bunch of lies, like that I'd always been jealous of her, that I'd flirted with Matthew in the past, completely made up and crazy things. All our mutual family and friends saw that post, and I got messages from people asking me what was going on. Benjamin responded publicly with a long comment explaining exactly what happened, with medical details from my hospitalization, testimonies from Rachel and Kelly who had heard her, everything. Patricia also commented saying that Natalie was lying and manipulating the situation. The post became a disaster, with people fighting in the comments, some defending me, and others saying that probably Natalie was going through a mental crisis because of her fertility problems and that we should have compassion. Finally, Natalie deleted the post, but the damage was already done. Basically, our entire social network knew what had happened. The next few weeks were weird. I was focused on my pregnancy and preparing for childbirth, but all this had me very stressed. My doctor told me to try to relax, That stress wasn't good for the baby. But how do you relax after something like that? Benjamin was incredible. He took time off work to be with me. He took me to my medical appointments, made sure I ate well. He prepared the baby's room for me to distract me. Patricia came almost every day to visit me. She'd bring food, help me with preparations, and I could see that she was also suffering a lot with the whole situation. She'd basically lost her daughter. I gave birth 6 weeks ago from now, and it was the happiest day of my life despite everything that had happened. We had a beautiful baby girl, healthy, perfect in every way. We named her Emma. Patricia and Charles came to the hospital as soon as she was born. They cried with happiness, and Patricia told me that Emma was a miracle after everything that had happened. My parents were there too. My siblings, everyone celebrating. Natalie sent me a message that day. It just said, "Congratulations on your baby. I hope someday you can forgive me." I didn't respond to her. Honestly, I don't even know what to say to her yet. Like 2 weeks ago, I found out from Patricia that Natalie and Matthew are getting divorced. Apparently, all the stress from the situation, plus the fertility problems, plus the problems with their business, was too much for their marriage. They're also selling the business because they can't keep it afloat, and Natalie is moving to another city to start over. Patricia asked me a few days ago if I'd be willing to talk to Natalie eventually. She told me she thinks Natalie is genuinely sorry and that she's been going to therapy. I told her I don't know, that maybe someday, but that it's still very recent, that every time I think about what happened, I want to cry with rage. I also told her that until Natalie doesn't apologize for real, not with excuses or justifications, but with a real apology where she completely accepts what she did, there's nothing to talk about. Right now, I'm focused on my daughter, on enjoying these first months with her, on being the best mother I can be. Benjamin is being the best dad. He wakes up at night to help me, changes diapers without complaining, sings to Emma to get her to sleep. Patricia and Charles are the most loving grandparents I could ask for. They come all the time to visit us, and they're completely in love with their granddaughter. My family is also super involved. Everyone wants to hold Emma, take pictures of her, buy her things. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing giving Patricia that ultimatum, if I was too harsh. But then I remember that I woke up in a hospital not knowing if my baby was alive. I remember the panic I felt in that closet, and I know I did the right thing. Natalie made a terrible decision based on her own jealousy and resentment, and decisions have consequences. I can't allow someone who is capable of doing that to be around my daughter, plain and simple. I don't know what's going to happen with Natalie long term. If someday we'll be able to have some kind of relationship again, if she'll manage to find peace with her fertility situation, if her life will improve in the new city. And part of me feels sorry for her, because I know her problems getting pregnant have been tearing her apart for years, and that she probably needs serious professional help. But another part of me, the part that's a mother now, can't forgive what she did. Can't forget that she put Emma's life at risk before she was even born. This morning I was breastfeeding Emma and she grabbed my finger with her tiny little hand, and I thought about everything I had to go through to have her here, safe and healthy. I thought about that horrible moment in the closet, about the fear I felt, about the certainty that I was going to lose my baby. And then I looked at her perfect little face, and I realized that it was all worth it, that she's the most important thing now, that protecting her is my #1 priority, even if that means cutting ties with family. Life goes on, I guess. Emma is growing. Every day she does something new. She's already starting to smile, and it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Benjamin and I are closer than ever. This horrible experience somehow made us stronger as a couple, and our family, the one that chose to stay with us, is closer than before. That's what matters at the end of the day. The people who choose to be there for you when things get difficult, not the ones who hurt you and then expect you to forget it.